Welcome back to another episode of the Intentional Intern Podcast. How are you guys doing? I feel like it has been just such a productive couple of weeks. I don't know if it's just something about the February-March curve, but January was forever ago is what it feels like because it's just been so long. But I hope everything is going well for you guys. And as always, I'm just really happy that you guys are all here. So this week's interviewee is Jupiter Henderson. Jupiter is a recent film graduate from Georgia State University looking to start their master's in what they're passionate about: film. Jupiter's future in the industry is very bright, but also is going to be very unique, especially in their approach and in the projects that they want to make. During this episode, we talk about Jupiter's creative process, Spider-Man 2 kickstarting their love for film, why they want to be known as erratic, creativity not being as valued in Hollywood anymore, and so much more. A major goal Jupiter has is to accomplish being a voice for minorities through their art, their personality, and providing more collaborative equity within filmmaking. To me, the way Jupiter articulates every concept that we talk about can only be described as magical, grounded, and extremely rooted in representation. I will never forget this quote Jupiter said: "Collaboration should always be the lifeblood of creativity. Being intentional with your creativity should always be at the forefront." I believe that to be true not just about filmmaking, but about everything that you choose to do within life. So hearing this within our conversation was absolutely amazing, and it even gave me some things to think about. I really cherish this episode and that quote because it captures why I started the podcast in the first place: to give students opportunities to talk about their passions and their perspectives in their way. Every element of this episode captures the unique lens of how much insight and knowledge that students can bring to the table, just based on their passion for wanting to do something alone. You can hear it in every student's voice on this podcast. They have endless potential to make such a big difference. Jupiter's contact info will be down in the show notes, so you all can connect with them to learn more. I hope you all enjoy this episode just as much as I did recording it. Happy listening! Hi, Jupiter. How are you?
Hey, I'm okay. Life is life, but I'm just living it and being the greatest I can be.
I
How
love
are
that.
you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. And I want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to take some of your time today so we can talk a little bit more
Be
about you.
thanking you. I should be thanking you because you're letting me talk about myself without repercussions.
I love that. So that's a great segue. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about you.
So, my name is Jupiter. I go by many names, as Amaya knows, I do go by many names, but the most important one is Jupiter. I am a writer. I love writing, specifically screenwriting, and I'm hoping to get into the TV business and stuff like that. I graduated Georgia State with a bachelor's in film. I'm hoping to get into grad school so I can get a master's in film. And I got a minor in religious studies. Why? Because I think religion is cool.
Well, that's awesome. I didn't even know that you had a minor in religious studies. I want to ask, by going into your degree in film, what are some things that you feel are essential to when you're thinking about film processes or writing out scripts? What are some things that you have to have in order to get started? What's your thought process like?
So whenever I want to start something, like start writing or anything like that, I always first and foremost read or watch media within that same genre just to see what works and doesn't work. So right now I'm writing I would say like a melodrama based in college. And there's not a lot of, melodramas based in college. So, right now it's helping me because I love this show anyway. I'm rewatching Degrassi
Hmm.
to just kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work, what storylines work, and what would be better for like a more adult, like a young adult audience. and stuff like that. So after, I get the feel of like the tone and things like that, I do also read some stuff. Right now I'm reading a book called, I have it with me, hold on. It's called If We Were Villains by ML Rio. I know no one's gonna see that, but I just wanted you to see that, because we're besties. But it's basically the same thing as Degrassi, kind of, but it's just melodrama. So I just want to make sure that I know the ins and outs of the genre, and then after that, I go into full writing mode. I cut myself off from literally everybody except my mom, because if something important happens, my mom's got to get to me. But I cut
Yeah.
myself off from everybody. I put every single device that I have in creative mode, and I start planning out things. I plan out seasons, episodes, characters, um, everything that goes within the characters. That takes about maybe 3, 4 weeks. And then I'll start writing. And hopefully, I'm still in the middle of writing this pilot, which is, I'm a perfectionist, so it's going to take me a minute. But yeah, that's usually how it works for me. Everything's got to be color coded, though. I mean, oh my God, everything has to be color coded. It cannot not be color coded.
So, and when you said 3 to 4, I immediately was thinking like, okay, maybe 3 to 4 hours. That shows you how I'm not tapped into film at all. Because when you said weeks, I was like shocked almost. But that makes sense.
Okay, so like the reason why it takes me so long is that I tweak so much because I always, because I'm still like reading or watching the stuff while I'm writing. And if I see an episode or read a chapter, that involves a character that's kind of like the characters that I'm like working on right now, I will redo the character until I'm satisfied. And
Yeah.
that's the perfectionism in me. But um because right now, this is the longest that I've been working on anything. Like this whole thing I've been working on since I want to say May of last year. Like
Mhm.
it's taken me a while because I just can't, like, this is like multi-season and stuff like that. So I want everything to be perfect so I can, put it in a portfolio
Right.
and stuff like that. So, you know, the creative process always takes long anyway, like because because a lot of writers are really hard on themselves, and
Mhm.
I'm no different. I want to make sure that my writing satisfies me, and I always have a group of guinea pigs to send my stuff off to tell me what they think about it anyway.
Right. And so
Yeah.
going into your process a little bit more, I want to go to maybe the background of that. So what made you interested in pursuing film as a career? What interested you in film in the first place?
So I always love to tell this story. And so many people don't think it's true because I was 4 when my love for film was solidified. It was because I saw Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. And at 4 years old, it's like, a bunch of people kicking and fighting each other. And I thought that was cool. I always thought movies were cool. But when I grew older, and I watched it. I like rewatched it with like a serious eye when I was like 18 or something. I
Mhm.
truly believe that Spider-Man 2 is one of the best movies I've ever seen. Like it's genuinely amazing. And so my love for film was pretty much solidified when I was 4, and my love for writing and character work and stuff like that was pretty much solidified when I was 18. And I took a detour and because I didn't really think that getting a degree in film would work. But then I came back, got my degree, and I love it so far. Like it's amazing. It was always there because my family, especially my mom, me and my mom are basically best friends. We both watch movies like religiously. Literally yesterday, I was at the movie theater with my mom. Like that's, yeah, we went to go see a really good movie. But yeah, my love of film's been with me since I was a kid.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the second time that Spider-Man has definitely been mentioned on this podcast, but to see the effect that that franchise has on so many people of just like, oh no, Spider-Man was it. Like that is really what got me
Spider
into it.
look, I'm telling you, like so many people are like, Spider-Man is like, he's like old and washed up, blah blah blah. No, Spider-Man is amazing. That's all I gotta say.
I think that's all that really needs to be said. I mean,
No
unless
bullshit.
Marvel has something else to say, feel free.
Yeah,
Anybody from Marvel want to come on here? But
Stanley's ghost hit me up. You know,
I love that. And so, what are some of the works that you think that you are most excited to put out? So, what do you think you want to be known for within the film industry? If you could think of one or many, I definitely know that as a creative or multiple creatives, you guys don't like to be put in boxes whatsoever. So, there may not be a genre that you might end up sticking to. So, that's why I want to ask what are just some of the things that you're excited to do in the future, whether those things are in progress now or things that you know later on in life, like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, this is my plan.
my major plan is one to win an Oscar. That's the plan. I want to win an Oscar for writing, and I want to be known as a really good writer. Um, I don't really care for fame. I just want to be known as a good writer. Writing has helped me get out of a lot of things, and I truly believe that good writing can help people get out of terrible situations, in their minds and things like that. I've seen movies that have genuinely changed my life and for the better. So I want someone to go into the movie theaters or open up like my show that I've written and see themselves in a character and see like what they can be if they put their mind to it, and I want them to feel good about themselves. And that's why I really do want to be known as a good writer, but I also want to be known as someone who gives voice to minorities, especially in this day and age, not to get political, oh my God. But I do want to be known as someone that can change lives for the better.
Hmm.
But yeah, I want to be known as a good writer.
Yeah, I love that. And how you essentially just talked about advocating through art, like just being a person that can kind of act as like a vessel for people to see themselves as something more or what they can achieve, that they
Hmm.
don't have to be stuck in the situation that they're in right now. I think that's something truly powerful, especially as when you're looking at movies or TV shows or media, you obviously connect to characters mainly throughout of like their relatability. So how you can personally connect to them, and that's why people say, "Oh, I can see myself in this person." Exactly what you said, and kind of almost act as like this parallel influence to maybe where they
Yeah.
want to be, or even just in some parts of who they are, like where they want to be in that space of who I want to be coming up. And so I want to ask from that lens of influencing, who are some people that have influenced you? Like, who are some people that have inspired you? Whether that's within the film industry, whether that's they're not in the film industry, who are some people that inspire you to do what you do?
I think my number one inspiration is my mother. My mom, shout out to her. She's my favorite person on the planet. She is genuinely. If you think I'm funny, oh my God, if you meet my mom, you'll be on the floor crying laughing. She's amazing. And I think she's my number one inspiration, celebrity wise. Even though my mom's my own celebrity, let me stop gushing about my mom. Celebrity wise, I think Jordan Peele would be one of my inspirations. Issa Rae. There's other writers, but those are the two mains. Those are like my writing gods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Issa Rae has made a project that I don't like. I don't think Jordan Peele has made a project that I don't like. But I think Spike Lee, um, Jordan Peele, Issa Rae, I think those are the main three. And
Yeah.
obviously my mom. Let me stop gushing about my mom. I love my mom.
Shout out moms, real.
Shout out moms, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love my mom too. So understandable. Well, that's awesome. I've definitely heard of Jordan Peele before, Issa Rae before. I've heard of Spike Lee before. All very monumental Black figures within film and
Yeah.
media, within the industry as a whole. And I know off the top of my head, like people will instantly feel as if they are these captivating figures as they are within the industry. And I want to ask you, when you essentially get into the industry and you make all of these things, if people had to describe you in, let's say, like 3 words, what 3 words would you want people to use to describe who you are as a person in the industry? What are some words that you would like to come to mind?
Oh, that's a hard question. Oh my gosh, that's a good question, Maya. Oh my goodness. Let me think. Intentional, erratic. I want to be known as erratic. I need people to know about my erratic writing process. And I think just nice. I just want to be known as nice. There's so many mean people in Hollywood. I just want to be known as nice. I want to be known as nice, and I want to be known as intentional,
Yeah.
and I want to be known as one of the eccentric ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm. Totally. And I get that 100%. And so that kind of leads me to that's how you want to be known within the industry. Now, for your future works, what do you think would be 3 words that you would want people to hold in talking about the work that you put out?
Representative,
Okay.
soul crushing. I want to make people cry. That's what I want. I want to make people cry. And thoughtful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Representative, soul crushing, and thoughtful. I
Yeah.
do want to make things that are entertaining. Melodramas they're soap operas.
Hmm.
It's going to have to be entertaining, but I do want to make characters that are fleshed out,
Yeah.
good, not boring, not flat. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
It sounds like a lot of your works will definitely kind of change up the narrative in some way for a lot of the work that we kind of see now, or at least that I see within representative media right now, especially in using representation as a really big
Mhm.
core value of what you do. And so, if you had just the top place in the industry to where you could change anything about the film industry, what are some things that you would change about the film industry, or what are some things you would?
I would like to give voice to younger actors. I love my Samuel Jacksons, my Denzel Washingtons, and things like that. But I do think the younger actors, the newer actors, are getting lost in the sea of other actors, in the sea of bigger actors. And I would also want to give voice to newer writers also because it's the same thing. Getting into the industry is incredibly hard. There's not really, you either actually have to have a connection within the industry or you have to work your way up for the next 15 years from a PA to a writer to a head writer to a showrunner and stuff like that. But I do want to give voice to the younger writers. I think younger writers are the lifeblood of the industry. I don't think, it's nothing against the older writers, but I think that younger writers and newer writers are the lifeblood of the industry.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I can see how, like you were saying, we've definitely seen a lot of those older actors just in the mix, but also you have older people playing younger characters, if that makes sense. And then now
Yeah.
with all of the enhanced technology that we have the ability to de age actors to essentially be the ages that they necessarily need to be without having to exactly transform their physical builds like they normally have done in the past when they're preparing for a role. So I think also just kind of in your description of what you would modify about the film industry, it does kind of showcase already like one of the words that you talked about, which was intentional and being known as intentional and giving
Mhm.
space to those who may not necessarily have it because of, their tenure in the industry or just starting out, like you were saying. And so I can, I guess, speak for myself, even just as a person who's just probably going to be consuming the films that you'll be creating or the TV shows that you'll be creating that means a great deal, especially for, like you were saying, it's hard to get into the film industry when you're first starting out. It's hard to get into
Yeah.
any industry when you're just starting out, especially like as early career talent, even if you're graduating, it doesn't matter. Just if you've never been in that place before, it's going to probably be a little bit harder to get where you need to go, especially if you don't have any internal connections or things like that. So I'm sure many upcoming actors, but also upcoming producers, screenwriters, like you were saying, will be they'd probably be more intentional and have a more positive outlook if that was the case, and being able to have that
Hmm.
entry level suggestion or opener to get their foot in the door without it seeming like the door is just completely closed, locked, and stapled, unless you have like an A-lister who's rooting for
And also, it's just when you brought up the de-aging thing, that's another thing that I do have a problem with. There are so many actors that look like older actors. It doesn't have to be their kids or anything like that, but there are ways to find an actor without using, you know,
you.
not to go on my crusade, without using AI, because
Yeah.
that's what the entire um strikes were for anyway. I do think um, there are so many ways to write a good film and, you know, make a good film without forcing out the younger actors because you don't want to pay somebody else. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's anti-creativity, and
Mm.
I truly think it's ridiculous. I think having um a lookalike. It could even be like their child. It could be like, like Denzel Washington has his son
Mm-hmm.
that looks exactly like him. And yet I'm seeing movies with Denzel Washington de-aged. Why am I seeing movies with Denzel Washington de-aged when we can just make John David Washington him? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think, spending a little extra cash to let creativity flow shouldn't be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that whenever I get higher within my goal, I want to make sure that, if I'm running a show or if I'm the head writer of a movie, I'm giving voice to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm hearing everybody. I'm intentionally taking into consideration what everybody is telling me
Yeah.
because there's no way to create a good show without collaboration. And I think collaboration should always be the lifeblood of creativity.
Mm. See, I was just about to ask you, what do you think are some of those core values around like creativity, like you were saying, and a big part of that is collaboration. But within your own sphere of creativity, how do you feel like creativity is uplifted within the film industry, but also can be limited within the film industry?
I don't want to sound defeatist,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the movies that I've seen, there are so many good movies. The movie that I saw yesterday, American Fiction, that movie, that was amazing. One of my favorite films came out last year called Past Lives that shows what creativity can do in a very small scale. And the amount of emotion that I felt in that movie, the writing was fantastic. However, I do think uh, creativity isn't as valued in Hollywood anymore.
Mm.
There are franchise films, and I don't have anything against franchise films. If I see, Captain America beating up a Nazi, I'm gonna watch Captain America beat up a Nazi for 6 movies straight. I don't have a problem with
Right.
that. But what I do fear is that, there are so many franchises and there are so many archetypes and like stuff like that, and with the use of AI, writers are getting pushed out of their own rooms. And I just don't think that creativity is as coveted as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to be coveted. I want creativity to be seen as ambrosia. I want it to be seen as something godly. Creativity
Yeah.
could, really bring a better world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I do hope that we all find a way to work together when it comes to AI. If I had it my way, I wouldn't use AI ever.
Hmm.
But AI is a necessary evil sometimes. Um, and with the writer strike that happened last year, I am very proud of my fellow writers that put creativity over money
Yeah.
and things like that. I'm very happy about it. And I
Yeah.
do think collaboration is, like I said, is the lifeblood. But I also think that being intentional with your creativity should always be at the forefront. I know I keep saying it, but intentionality should always be at your forefront. You should never be in a situation as a writer where you're not thinking about how something could affect someone in a
Yeah.
good or bad way.
Hmm.
Um, and how you want something to affect someone. You shouldn't just be writing things down because it sounds cool.
Hmm.
That's what editing is for. And there are some movies where I've seen that they have truly skipped the editing process when it comes to visually or, on the script. Not to talk bad about any movie, but
Hmm.
the Madam Web movie that came out,
I've been
yeah,
hearing some
girl,
things. Yeah.
you can very much tell that it's a movie that has so much studio interference. It's ridiculous. You can tell that they wrote two drafts and went with the first draft.
Yeah, they limited creativity. That's a
Yeah,
really good example.
I hate when creativity is limited. I don't like studio interference. There are so many good things that could come out of studios if the studios would just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Another issue with studio interference that I've seen is the Looney Tunes movie that was supposed to come out on Max, Coyote versus Acme. WB shelved it, and this they did the same thing with Batgirl. They shelved this movie. It was fully completed. Like, I mean, it was animated, it was voiced, it was written, like it was fully completed, and they shelved it because they didn't think that it would be like watched enough. And now since they shelved it, the government is getting into it because they're sitting here like, you're not paying these people. These people have not been paid. Like, this is, blah blah
For
blah.
their work, even though it didn't come out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And WB doesn't want to sell it because even if they don't think it would be good, if it's actually good, they don't want to get embarrassed. Studio interference is ridiculous. And if I ever get the chance, I will lead a crusade against studio interference.
Mm. Yeah. And going off of your point of AI and creativity in that way, and talking about how really good movies, like you mentioned earlier, they evoke a sense of emotion and they evoke
Hmm.
feelings out of you that make you enjoy the movie, not just visually, but emotionally, mentally, and physically. And there is no way that AI can fully be able to curate that effect of human emotions as a sense of technology software. That just is not
Yeah.
possible. And so implementing that and trying to kind of create a more efficient process is fully descaling the amount of emotion, therefore limiting that enhanced creativity that
Hmm.
films have given us in the past based off of literally just history. And speaking on that studio interference piece, coming from a person who's a consumer, now knowing that it's just very intentionally discouraging in terms of for people
Yeah.
who are, like you were saying, wanting to get into the industry, but it's already hard enough to get your foot in the door, but then feeling that pushback of introduction of ideas, diversity of thought,
Hmm.
and then that diversity of creativity, it does feel like it's a misrepresentation of what the industry can be and what could be, in the sense of you could create a whole project and be fully completed and it still never goes out, therefore just again descaling what we just talked about.
Yeah, I think this is really a hot take for me. It's not really a hot take for me because I've had this take for years. I think shelving a fully completed project should be illegal,
Hmm.
whether it's good or bad. Someone's work should be seen so they can, one, improve on what they think is wrong and and, you know, excel at what they think they did right. But I just genuinely think that shelving a fully completed project should be illegal because why are we not allowing someone's creative vision to be seen, whether it's good or bad? I don't really care about what heads of companies that have never worked on a set or that have never been on a movie set or been in a writer's room or been like, anywhere near a creative process thinks about if a movie is good or not. I don't really care about what they think. All they think about is money. And I think capitalism limits creativity also. That's just me though.
I mean, I feel like that's a general take, especially like versus socialism. Capitalism definitely does stifle quite a bit of things in society. So I can
Hmm.
definitely see how if you're already impacting the system of people, you are going to impact their tangible creations within whatever industry that is. So not even just film and media in that way. It's from a creative space, it's in a corporate space, it's completely correct. So not a hot take at all.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. So many people are like, we're pro AI, we're pro capitalism. And I'm like, I don't think you're going to be any of that when you get pushed out of your job for a robot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First, it goes for creativity and then it goes for the trades.
Hmm.
Like that has always been the trajectory.
Hmm.
It's always the fine arts and then it's always the fine arts first and then it's
Everything
the
else.
trades. Like it's
Yeah.
everything else.
And so, speaking on like that future of the industry, but also just the future of what's to come next, if you could curate what the future of film looks like, or the future of your industry looks like, whether that's screenwriting, directing, XYZ, what are some things that you foresee positively for the future of film if you were in charge of curating that?
I think I would encourage more horror films,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. There are so many horror film. Okay, I'm gonna give you a quick history lesson, a quick film lesson. So, horror is the representation of the fears that are commonplace within the decade or era that we're in. So, a lot of horror films in the 50s and 60s were about invisible enemies and invaders because that was because of the Cold War. After 9/11, it was once again invisible enemies because of the towers falling. Um, slashers were popular because like in the 70s, there was just a giant jump in serial killers that was going on. And like I do think showcasing fear in a way where it's not really gonna affect you
Mm.
in a negative way, like yeah, you're gonna get scared, because it's a horror movie. But to showcase a fear so like and just to make it look, you know, palatable, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So out of
Like,
touch to your reality that it's palatable.
yeah, yeah, so like, like I would like to have a lot of more over the top horror films. Because we can always, get scared in the movie theater and then go about our way, but living in constant fear, just by walking outside, that's not fun. But if I
Yeah.
go inside, I'm scared for a little bit, and then I leave, that I just have a good day.
Hmm.
I get that fear out, and the rest of my day is unaffected.
Yeah.
So I think that, and then I also think this is going to be a hot take. I want more superhero movies, but I don't want franchise movies.
Superhero
I want
movies.
I want superhero movies. I want like um one and done superhero movies. It doesn't even have to be from a existing property. I just love a good superhero film, and I would like more leftist media, if that makes
Mm.
sense. I would also love more representation. It's nothing against Hollywood, but I am getting a little sick and tired of seeing white people on my screen, you know?
I can understand, like, I'm a person who doesn't like horror movies at all. So when you said, "Oh, I want more horror movies," I would be fully against your petition. But I mean, for
I
everybody who
think I think horror is great. Did you see the new Godzilla movie? Godzilla minus
Godzilla
one?
minus one, I have not seen it.
Okay, one, I need you to go see it. It's amazing. But two, it would be considered a horror film, more or less. Like, it's a giant monster, whatever. But it would be considered a horror film, and it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. I say that a lot, but
Yeah.
there are so many movies that are just good. But I think Godzilla minus one, um, is what I would see as what I want for more horror films, you know, and a full embodiment, like a full comically large embodiment of one's fears and one's, whatever. And, at the end it dies and the fear goes along with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think in that regard, maybe I would be more open to the idea. I definitely think there, and I want to ask you this actually. What do you think is like the fine line? Because I see these genres kind of get blended together quite a bit. The
Hmm.
fine line, and you could probably guess what I'm about to say, but horror and thriller. Like, why? What is the fine line between those that creates this distinction of where they need to be separate genres versus how you can see how they can be somewhat of the same?
So for me, right, it, like you said, it is a very fine line between the two. But for me, thrillers are more character based. So a lot of the drama is, between characters and like stuff like that. So I would say like the 007 movies would be considered thrillers, but I think horror is more ideological, like a slasher, like like Freddy Krueger is like a demon. No demons, and like
Hmm.
Jason Voorhees is just like this unstoppable monster, and like stuff like that. So I think horror is more like the idea being put into a humanoid form, or like like a scary form. But I think thrillers are more human to human
Mm,
drama, and
hmm.
thrillers can be scary. I don't,
Yeah.
there are some thrillers that I was, taken aback. I was like, what in the world?
Hmm.
But I think Ex Machina would also be considered a thriller. I don't know if that's like, I wouldn't say it's old, but it like came out in like 2014, so not a lot of people remember the movie. But I would consider that a thriller other than like a horror movie. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, speaking on kind of like the genre of just all things in film and media and all the separate genres, if you could give us your top three genres and then a movie that you would recommend for everyone to see from each of those genres, what would they be?
Oh my God. Top three.
Yeah, top three
Mm,
genres, and then pick one movie from each genre that you would encourage everybody to see.
okay. I love a good coming of age film. And one that I would recommend, this is crazy because this is one of my favorite movies. And you're gonna laugh when I say it. I promise you, you're gonna laugh. It's the live action Bratz movie.
Ooh, period.
It is objectively bad. I'm not gonna hold you. It's like objectively bad, but it's like good. Like it's a good teen coming of age film. So I tell people to watch it. I do love a good adaptation. I don't know if that's considered a genre, but I do love a good adaptation, and one of the best adaptations that I've seen is the Speed Racer movie. That is like a it's by the Wachowskis, the people that the girls that made the Matrix movies,
Mhm.
and they you can girl, if you watch that movie, you can tell they're weebs. First of all, if you watch Speed Racer, you can tell they're weebs, but it's so colorful and it's so like you don't really get bored in that movie. Like there's action thrown at you left and right. And speaking of action, I love a good action movie, and I will always recommend the Fast and Furious series when it comes to action movies because those are ridiculous. Those are ridiculous movies. Like it's like the first movie is like, oh, street racing. The first three movies are street racing. And then the fourth and fifth are like serious, like melodramatic movies. Oh no, the fourth one is a serious melodramatic movie. And by the sixth one, they are secret agents.
Mm-hmm.
And I always want people to watch it because it just goes off the rails. And the newest one that just came out a while, like last year or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
um, it ended on a cliffhanger with a dam being blown up and all the rocks falling on Dom and his son, and then it ended. And I'm like, why would I not go see the next movie? Like, be for real.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw something on Instagram the other day about like how Fast and Furious started as this and now we're at this. And then I've always seen that meme constantly float around about like it's about family. I,
Yeah, it's literally, oh my God, like that series is actually ridiculous, but it's so good. I'm not even gonna hold you, it's so good.
yeah, I mean, from how you just described it, I mean, that seems very enticing. And if you've ever been to Barnes and Noble or if you've ever seen on TikTok, this is the next challenge that I have for you. It's where people have like books that are wrapped up in paper and all they have is like they write the descriptive title for it. So like they write the description that they think. Like those they're so hilarious and so funny, but also extremely accurate. So I want
No,
to
but literally.
see like if you could come up with a description of a movie, it doesn't have to be from those genres that we just discussed.
Okay,
But if you want to try and describe a movie, and let's see if I can get it. Now, try to pick something that people know because I'm not an avid movie watcher. But if you can think of, if you can think of
okay,
like
okay,
a good movie and then try and describe it, I'll do my best.
okay, okay. Oh, I got one, I got one.
Okay.
Big-headed supervillain meets a girl, decides to turn into a superhero, and beats up his protege.
Megamind.
Yes.
I love as soon as you said big headed supervillain, I was like, okay, Megamind. I can get that.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
literally love
Exactly.
Megamind.
I love
And you
that
know,
movie.
I would also, if the person was hot enough, I would also change sides. I'm not even gonna hold you.
Now he loved that
Yeah.
news reporter. He
I'm
loved
telling you, like, he would not shut up about her. I was like, okay, girl. Like,
yeah.
I was
And
like, okay,
in the spirit of Black History Month, if you could give us 1 to 2 films that you think that have been very inspirational and impactful on you that people should watch,
hmm
what do you think those 2 films would be?
Bamboozled by Spike Lee. I'm going to give a trigger warning about Bamboozled. The movie is about blackface. The movie literally puts black people in blackface for entertainment. It's a really good satire about the entertainment industry and everything like that. So Bamboozled by Spike Lee. And I would really have to say Into the Spider-Verse.
That's
A tie between it's a tie between Into the Spider-Verse and Black Panther. Those are so good.
hmm
They're so good. But yeah, Bamboozled and one of those two.
yeah. If I had to give one for Black History Month, that is, I would say not necessarily like a representative film, but it kind of is at the same time. I really enjoyed Wendell and Wild that Jordan Peele
Oh,
helped produce.
God,
Um,
oh my
I
gosh, that movie is
loved
so
it.
good, dude. Oh,
I
I forgot
loved
about
it.
Wendell and Wild. That movie is so good. And I
I
love the
loved it.
representation in that movie. They had a trans mask
Exactly.
character in there
Mhm.
who was not white, mind you. That was really great.
From my standpoint of just like the Black alt aesthetic and being
Yeah,
having that
literally.
representation,
Yeah.
I was really happy about that. I loved her puffs and what color they were.
Girl, oh, I loved everything about her. I loved everything about her character design. It was really good.
But yeah, you just enlightened me on some more representation that like I wouldn't have been able to see physically. So that makes me enjoy the film even more. And I was saying like from it's a representative film, not necessarily from like the I'd say the black experience that we're usually privy to in terms of like
Mhm.
the historical sense, but it is still socially representative in that way.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like representative, but like not in like the traditional representative way when we think about things. Like, so I love that you
Oh yeah.
mentioned that. And I love that you gave two or three different movies that have different angles of representation for Black people. I really appreciate you sending us off with some good recommendations that we all can listen to and being really candid about your experience, but also the experience of the industry. I think it is very critical to have that understanding, but also, like you were saying, the voices that you want to be able to provide within your role in the industry. And just by being a voice right now, speaking out on the topics is helping other people in the future be able to do the same. Because, like a lot of humans, we see things and want to do things because we've seen other people do them. And so
Yeah.
being able to carry that torch in such a critical way, in such a key way that is helpful to intentionality, creativity, and representation within the film industry is definitely something that's going to shake up the table, which you're not really unfamiliar with that terminology of being a table shaker. So I'm just excited to
Yeah.
see.
I have no problem with shaking the table.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with it. I promise you I don't.
Look, you gotta promise it to me. I know. So I want to thank you for bringing that energy and bringing your candid experience and conversation to the podcast and being able to have such an important conversation, especially within one of the most important industries that we have going on right now. And so I just want to again thank you so much for just being.
Oh, you know what? I want to thank you for allowing me to gush about my mom for about 3 minutes straight. And I also want to thank you to about, letting me just info dump about movies and stuff like that. I always love talking about movies, so thank you for allowing me to do that.
Yeah. And so when we are looking for like your future projects and things like that, what is our best way to reach you? What are some things?
I do, I always need more guinea pigs. I always need more guinea pigs to read my stuff. So, if you want to read my stuff, I would suggest, finding me on Instagram and messaging me. Um, don't take my ideas because if you take my ideas, I'm gonna have to meet you at your front door. You know what I mean? But I always need guinea pigs to read my stuff. And I always need a willing soundboard to talk at about movies. So, always hit me up on Instagram. If you want to talk about, writing with me, you can email me
Yeah.
at hendersonlogan1998 at outlook.com.
Period. And I'll make sure to link your social media handle and your email in the show notes so that way people can just grab the link and go.
Yeah, you're iconic for that. Thank you for doing it. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Intentional Intern Podcast. I'll see you guys next week with another student and how they're looking to make their success and their way in the world. Have a good one.